Chris Senior, Chris Junior, Devin on the beat, tell the stories from the heart.
This live, I'll be reacting to this new song. Hear my name. What's it?
Make the cycle complete.
Got the wisdom, laying down the facts. Chris Junior with the passion, pushing us to relax. Never bring the fire, always keeping it fresh. Together we're rewards rising up from the press.
Is this a second part? Second part, yeah. Is this the rapping part?
It's AI.
AI did that? Oh,
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. No, because I still have the old song.
That is crazy that AI did
Right. Made a whole hook. The bar dropped our names in it. Like,
I thought it was
yo.
or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Nah, it's pretty cool.
Studio quality.
Yeah, what you do is you type in a paragraph, like you give it a guide.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you say, do you want Afrocentric? You say what you want. So it's pretty cool. You put that in there, man, and then that's when they go to the
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever used some of the tools. I'm like, man, I might need to start a channel and make some
pretty cool,
music, like using AI.
Anyway,
Sheesh.
so I was playing around with the studio today, and I couldn't get it to work the other way because this is not big enough. So I created more room. I got a little more organized for us, man.
It's a way to create a backdrop,
Yeah,
virtual backdrop. You can put
yeah.
that up there.
Yeah,
But
you good.
nonetheless, we are excited and ready to bring in the new year. There's some new topics, new things to stay fresh, and I think we're going to try to integrate a lot more current events this year. Where we always generally kind of try to talk about, of course, positive things in the community that will always continue, but also trying to intertwine a little bit more of the things that are going on. And I think one thing in particular that has been of a topic is Drewski, comedian, social media personality. He actually, I think, has been doing this for a while now, where he has his own characters and he makes fun of everybody. Like whether it's like country white folks, he had the NASCAR one where people kind of took offense to that.
The white dude from
the white guy that lives in the streets, that guy. But it's funny. A lot of these characters are things that he's pulling from that I feel like is almost spot on in a lot of ways. He's pulling it from real life. Like it's from real scenarios or things that he has seen. And that's comedy, is when people kind of making fun of or light of addressing things that we all see, but we don't necessarily talk about or address sometimes. And right now, I feel like there's probably a little bit of let's say unrest or some turmoil a little bit with certain people in the church community, with his most recent joke of like just kind of poking fun at the mega churches. Yeah, the mega churches and mega pastors. And I mean, I thought it was lighthearted. I've seen probably movies or TV shows that have portrayed it in a probably more of a negative light. But I think like with this, it was definitely lighthearted. And then I kind of wanted to make it a sense to talk about just comedy in general in the church, because I kind of had a debate on another comedian. I don't know if you know who Kev on Stage is.
Yeah.
He specifically does things within the church, but one of his good friends, Tony Baker, another comedian, is a little bit more secular. He doesn't curse as much, but he does curse here and there. But people are like, oh, how can that be your friend? How can you be doing comedy with him? But but you're still doing comedy and you're trying to represent and say that you go to church. But his comedy is clean. He also talks about things that I feel like are human in a sense. Like he makes jokes talking about sex, but again, he does have a religious or church background, so I don't think he necessarily gets too graphic or too crazy. But I don't know. Comedy, I think, is one of those things that over the past few years, we've really seen it kind of, I don't want to say come under attack, but it's just slowly but surely, like things are becoming touchy subjects that you used to be able to make fun of anything and everything. And then slowly but surely, it's been like less and less. Like you can't joke about that. You can't joke about that. You can't talk about
But
that.
there's a line. But there's a line, and I think the line is different. But there's some things are too far. I mean,
I understand that.
It depends on what it is. Some things are too far, and I think some things the world is hypersensitive about. So I agree on both of the points. You know, I know you weren't saying it, but you shouldn't be cursing the church. No, I'm saying anybody. You know, and the other side of the coin is sometimes people, not the church, people that represent the church, do some things that are questionable. They're gonna set themselves up for.
But it was more so who
he
hangs out with. You know, you can't sometimes, especially as a comedian, like I could look at and view things in the world one way, and there's another guy, a comedian, that views it and goes about the world in another way. And we could still be friends or associates, but we just don't necessarily agree or see things eye to eye. Like I think that's okay.
See, it depends on the person, and it does. It depends on the person. Because for some people, either you're going to become the person you're hanging with, you know, or they're going to become you. So you have to know who you are. And there are some people who should not do that because they're not strong enough. You know, because they get pulled over into that side. So sure. So you have to be very careful. And then it depends on who your friends are. We talk about this a lot. You know, the guys I've known since, you know, I always name the show second name now, but we talk about a lot because and you have friends like that, and you have friends like that. There's things that my friends would not allow me to do. You know, even though like I grew up where the old heads, whatever OGs, whatever you call them, they looked out for us. So they would you know go home. I mean, they wouldn't let us do certain. Now they giving people. So I think that time has changed. So it depends on who you're with. To me, and I say this to the young people I'm talking to, your real friend ain't gonna let you get in trouble. Your real friend is gonna look out for you. But that's that term now. And there's some people who get sucked back to the other side. You know, there's some people who, you know, or if you got bad habits and you start hanging around people who feed those habits, you're likely to fall into the trap. So I think it's a case by case thing. You know, and the other side of the coin is, you know, you can't be light. And I'm not calling it like dark, but you know what I mean? There is no light without darkness. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so you know, and the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be in the world, not of the world. So we are, you know what I mean? We are, so we can't exclude ourselves. Right. We can't. There's guys I grew up with who I kind of hang with. I think it's cool. And then there's some guys that I know I can't hang out with. It ain't personal. So I think,
I understand that. Like the idea of like just kind of lifestyles not necessarily matching up, and like it just reminded me of the conversation we had with like Chris Broussard, you know, a year or so ago, when he was just talking about how he had to separate himself from certain friends or things when he was on his own kind of personal journey. So, I mean, I understand that, and I mean, I've done that over the years. You know, like you're getting older, and like you know, partying and drinking and like just living from weekend to weekend was a thing, but then. You know, after a while, you start to grow up and like start to grow apart from people who still kind of live in that lifestyle, and you see other things. So no, I completely get that. But I think like you know, just to kind of bring it back home with our topic of just kind of with comedy and how like I think people are taking comedy too serious.
Well, but
it's ruining it.
But it depends on how you look at it.
See, it's supposed to be a joke. I mean, some jokes aren't for you, but like, you know that's okay too.
But you also gotta, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But you also gotta be careful that you still can offend somebody.
True,
and I think that's the biblical side of it is that you don't want to do anything that's going to trip someone up or personally defend somebody. Now, the video we're talking about, I saw and I thought it was funny.
I think all comedy is offensive.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I didn't think it was side-splitting funny, but I thought it was funny. But it was because somebody had sent it to me yesterday, and they asked the question about like, why do people feel comfortable making fun of the church?
What are the elements that make it funny?
Well, to me, like when he came down the wire at the beginning, man, and he ain't no little dude. I mean, he ain't no 5'11". He ain't no 5'11", 155 dude. And so I thought that was funny. The other thing I thought was funny was the song he came down to. That song was perfect. It was perfect for what he was doing. I mean, I don't know, maybe because I've never seen anything like it, but I thought it was perfect for what he's doing. And the stuff he made, he would, to me, my personal opinion, and somebody's going to say I shouldn't say it. Your mom looked at me kind of funny when I told her I thought it was funny. You know, like
she's like, really?
yeah, because it was humorous. Like when I could see. See, I don't see. Let me back up. I didn't take it as he was making fun of religion. I didn't.
No,
I didn't take it that he was making fun of the church, so to speak. I took it as he saw some things in church, that was a little questionable, and he made a parody. He turned it, now to me it's the same thing. You had church leaders on Saturday, probably before your time, on Saturday Night Live, or it's been happening forever.
Living Color, like all these
it's been happening forever. Now, I think there's a lot of things that come into play. I think now because you have these mega churches now, and every church is not exactly what it should be, and so people get sensitive about it. And to me, another thing is I know who I am. So somebody making fun of mocking, church or my religion, it don't. I know who I am. Now, now it's not funny if he blasphemed like the end when he told the guy. Yeah, well, get the camera. He used the word. That was a little much. But the rest of it, like even when he talked about, I got it. He took a little open one for in there when he said, I'm pregnant. And it was, look, I thought that was one of the most funniest parts when that old lady stood up. Yeah. And he said it. But I mean, you got to be careful though. It's a lie. It's a lie.
But I think one thing that you noted and said that is the idea of making fun of like these things that are kind of surrounded and around
it's
the church,
questionable things.
But like, and making fun of religion directly itself. I don't think he was making fun of religion
or mocking God,
or mocking God.
I think he didn't say God. He just he mocked some things that occur in the church. But it kind of goes back because my 2-minute tangent. One of the things I discovered was, even when I was on vacation. I'm always thinking and talking, having conversations. And one of the things I discovered was there's a lot of people who don't know what they believe. It's almost like their grandma's religion. Because my grandma did it, she took me to church, my mom took me to church.
I mean, you got people all the time.
But I mean, a lot. So if you don't know what you believe, you often mistake for going on as being the church, and it's not. Perfect example. The guys I work with on Monday, I'm on part 2. We've been talking about what it is to be a Christian. And I used growing up. I grew up in a Baptist church, and they came down with the white gloves. They marched down on Baptist church, and they sang. And somebody always stood up for the testimony service. And I thought that was church. That's not church. Those are things that happen in that church. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think people have to understand that the church first of all is the people. It's not the building. And to me, the guys that are up there mocking God and doing stuff, he's imitating people. And that's what he was doing. He was imitating people. And honestly, some of the stuff that he was imitating, I saw.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever seen either in real life or like
he went far. Like when he was doing the worm, that was hilarious. When he was doing the worm, or he said when he made fun of he said, "Yo, we're gonna raise $4 million for Africa. You get what I mean? We're gonna raise it tonight. He said, nobody. And then he was like, "Give me your lightsaber." So I mean, to me, that was humor because because that's not church. No, it's not. But I do understand that there are some churches who kind of operate like that.
Yes.
So do I would I do it? No. But also in privately, have I cracked jokes about it? Yeah.
Some of those things,
yeah. I said,
like it's people who, not to say, I mean, you hear the jokes about Jehovah's Witnesses, how they're coming up to your door, like pretending like you're not home, and all of these other things.
But I think part of it is, again, there's a difference between stuff that happens in the church and the church.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference. I think people get it like it was to me when he said, I'm impressed.
It's a turn off to people, honestly. With how the responses that you're getting, like from some people, I think it's a turn off to people. I would say that are outside the church or maybe on the line. You just like, yo, but can you even go here and like just be a regular person and just laugh at anything?
But this is the problem. That's not every church.
I know that.
Like, I need a perfect example.
I'm just saying with how social media works.
But I know how
people see that and they use that as an example.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is this is why people got to start to think for themselves. Do I think I give you a perfect example. We had a whole conversation about somebody wearing a hat in church. And the story I used was a young man was like, "Hey, look, I know you're a pastor and all this." He says, how come when I wear my hat to church, the first thing people say before they even say how you doing, what's my name, how you feel, take your hat off. And so dialogue back and forth. So I posed the question to the guys, and there was a lot of people who felt like, yo, you need to take your hat off. But what they didn't know was the dude says, yo, I had a fungus in the back of my head, and I didn't want to take my hat off. Because he was, and there's people hair's not done, need a haircut or whatever. So I say that because to back your point up, I think sometimes we take it too serious. Because a brother come want to hear the gospel because he's trying to change his life, and you worry about his hat. Now you worry about this, and I said this to your mom. She looked at me. You worried about this video right here, which okay, I get it, but people are getting killed in immigration. People getting kicked out of the country. We got some real issues. How many people about to get kicked off the healthcare? Because to me, it was funny, and it came at a time where I'm in the middle of some personal things and like what I'm looking for and everything. I wasn't disturbed by it. When the guy said it to me yesterday, yeah, I wasn't disturbed by it. Now I mean, you said earlier, whether we like it or not, people are going to find comedy in everything. They are. And the same token is you got a pastor, man. Like, I don't know if you saw the clip, I probably shouldn't tell you all this, but there's a pastor that was having an interview with Cam Newton, and Cam Newton had on shorts. And he tell Cam Newton how nice his legs is. Now, I would never have that conversation. Yo, did you put shea butter on him? I ain't never gonna have that conversation.
Well, I think what's even kind of silly even to talk about is just still probably tied in the same thing with the church, and like what's either acceptable or not. Is like talking that. Remember the pastor and his wife and how she was dressed. I think we talked about this not on air, maybe. Yeah, but just the idea of like
that was too.
Yeah,
that was too.
But people will sit here and defend that to death. But then now on the other hand, we offended because of some jokes.
But you know what? When people tell me, and I'll take it off the pastor. I wouldn't dress my wife like that. There's no way I would dress my wife like that, man. First of all, you're gonna be highly upset if you go out somewhere and some dude or somebody say something won't make it,
and look available.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, why make somebody stumble? Because some guys will look at her and they gonna lust. They struggle. So I mean, I totally I don't see how people defend the dress. I don't. That was his choice, and I think he went too far when he was trying to defend it.
I mean,
he should have just been quiet. What? He should have just been quiet. But I think sometimes it's funny because I'm watching this thing Chosen when I came in, and some people want to debate what I'm saying, but when you go study and you study word and stuff, it was funny because I remember I was doing research a couple of years ago, and it was saying Jesus actually some of his parables was almost like jokes. He was sounding like and then you watching Chosen, the thing Chosen. Now it is a movie, but the scripture, but it's the humor. It actually is pretty funny. So people think that's blasphemy. I think it's hilarious. Like there's a scene there where he's talking to John. He's talking about John the Baptist and Jesus, and he was like, "Yeah, that's that dude who eat bugs." So I mean, but then again, that's the question is. No matter what is in life, you gotta be laugh at yourself. It can't be,
uptight.
Yeah, you
like,
gotta
who wants to
laugh
be
at
around
yourself, man. And then, and I think that is part of the reason why some churches just they get old, they age out. Because no young people come to the church because there's always, and it's almost like we can't smile. Everything gotta be deep. So it's a balance to it. And I do think it's a line that you gotta be careful. I'm not saying he could, but there's a line that you gotta be careful.
Social media may have been the worst thing for some of these pastors who come to
and that's actually a thing too, because it is some people who they get lost in the idea just wanting to be kind of popular, and having fans, the views, the likes.
See, this is the thing, and this is what I'm going to disagree.
It's some pastors like that.
No. Hear what I'm going to say. This is, I don't think it's the worst thing that happened to them because it's exposing people. You're starting to see what people really are, who they really are. You're starting to see, the Bible says, many are called, but few are chosen. That's the difference. A lot of people are called, but it's few people chosen to take that next step. So now you're starting to find out who's who.
I actually think on that.
You know what I mean? You're finding out who's who.
It's a little dangerous because it's these people out here who are lost and aimlessly
looking for something. Dangerous.
And like we be seeing so many more people just getting caught up and buying into
it's very dangerous.
Blasphemy.
It's very dangerous, but that's why people kind of study for themselves. That's why people need to ask questions. That's why people need to be around like-minded people. Just don't joke out there because somebody, I joke, and some people think this joke is funny, some people don't. I say it all the time. I say, you know what, it's funny because, you go to a black church, and I know I'm offending somebody, but dude could be up there and he could be preaching Mary Had a Little Lamb. And people be out there, oh, you preaching now. He can just be doing with a tone, he got a rhythm and everything. Yeah. So I'm just saying, people, there's some people going, because there's some people go to church to be entertained. I remember sitting in church and the guy was teaching. It's a true story. He was teaching, I'm sitting there, and he was using words I didn't know. And everybody around me was like, yeah. So what do you mean? I don't know. Well, you just jumping up and down talking about you teaching them. How are you teaching if you don't understand what he's saying? So there are some people who go to church and they follow the mass, they go along, and is it dangerous? Yes, and because people need to not be gullible. People need to research for themselves. People need to ask questions, and people need to talk to other people and see what they believe. I go back to what I said. A lot of people don't know why they believe what they believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say I understand the idea of people what they need to do, but then also the other side of human nature, and it's a lot of lazy people that want to be spoon fed.
Well, I agree, but it's been like that the whole time.
But I think to Devin's point, what he was saying before, I think it's gotten so much worse because before you have to at least leave your house and actively go somewhere to find it. Yeah, now it's like.
But I wasn't saying. My disagreement wasn't in that social media gives them a lot more exposure. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it lets you know who's who. Yeah. It lets you know who's who because if you got somebody and you got somebody, you go to a church and it's all about them. It's time to get out of there. Mm-hmm. Or like when he was talking about the car he drove. He made a joke about it, but that happens. I had a friend of mine a couple years ago. He called me up and he said, "Yo, hey, I got a question for you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Yo, he's going to this church, big church," and he said the pastor was driving the Beamer, and the congregation pulled him the Beamer. And he came out and felt like he needed a new car, and he was putting that back on the congregation. That's not penalty based. Now, would I make fun of it? But I can't be mad at somebody for making fun of it because that shouldn't be happening.
Remember the video of the preacher that had the Bentley or the Rolls Royce inside the church?
Oh yeah.
And then he was just sitting there. It's behind him while he's preaching, and then he's like, "This is for all of us. This is the congregation." And then somebody said, "Can I drive it, Pastor?" He said, "No, absolutely not."
But this is where people,
and that was real.
People have to learn for themselves, man, and learn to differentiate between, the truth and the non-truth. And this goes back to what I'm saying. A lot of people don't know why they believe what they believe or what they believe. They don't. There was a story, and I want to get back to humor, but I got to tell the story. When I was down in Florida, I read it on vacation. I read the story, and that's what got me thinking about. People don't know what they believe, and the pastor was upset because his son goes to college to come back and declares he's an atheist. And he wasn't upset so much with his son; he was upset with himself and what happened because what he realized was, and I say the same thing about I told your mom. I think I did the same thing with you. You never allow your kids to find religion for themselves. You know what I mean? You take them to church, and they go to church because it's an expectation.
Yeah, here's
an expectation. Yep. Well, no, not even that. Even if it's one, you go because it's an expectation. Even if it's just Sunday, you go because it's an expectation. When you go, because I want to please my dad, I want to please my mom. You never help them find their own religion. So what I say, I fast forward because now we got a lot of adults who don't know what it is. They, what's a Christian? And they can't tell you. Why do you believe what you believe? And I had one group and I said, you can't start what Pastor said. Do people curveball?
Oh, they probably stuck.
So that's what I'm saying. So a lot of what you see now when people get upset over some of this trivial stuff and stuff like that is because of that. It is because I don't know how much they know what they really truly believe in. Because if you're upset about that, then you need to be upset what's happening with immigration. You would be upset what's happening with politics. You would be upset because people are about to get kicked off of health. I mean, there's so many other things we should be upset about.
Yes.
That we should really be upset about. And to me, that video is at the bottom of the list. And I thought it was funny. I didn't know.
It is funny.
And you know what? I've been in this serious thing for a while, man. Hey, what's up, Jeff? I've been in this mode because I'm my goal this year is determined to figure out how can I get more people to understand what a Christian is, and be able to defend the gospel, and understand what they believe. So that's my goal.
Human.
That's my goal. But yeah, but funny story. And I hope he's not watching, but it's a funny story.
Human.
I said this, right? I said, yo, when I was talking to the guys, I said, hey, yeah, one thing about Christians is we got to stop trying to be like everybody else. Be who you are. He goes, yeah, man, I was at work, man, and I told the guys that they told me that I shouldn't be cussing because I'm supposed to be. I said, dude, I didn't see you cuss. That's not what I said.
And I was trying to have 40 kicking with this.
That's not what I said. So Jeff, what we talking about, man? Can you? I don't know if you saw the video about humor in church. Do you think sometimes, we take ourselves too serious? I mean, I like to laugh and have fun. I think it helps build relationships. Mm-hmm. I think it helps tears down guards because some people come to church guarded because the church hurt or because of whatever.
I'm trying to share, I guess, the perspective from people that I know, and I'm sure people that you know.
But there's people in church who feel the same way. That is so it's so intense.
Yes.
Like
too intense.
I mean, when and somebody's gonna disagree. I remember when I was coaching you. When I was coaching on your team. And I kept getting the speech about, man, you out there on Sunday playing baseball. Yeah, but your kid is on the team I'm coaching. He out there on the field playing. Mm. But they give me the speech because, so I think, and it wasn't like I didn't miss every Sunday, but that's what I did, I did with my kids. I coached them, so people look at it differently. And I remember when I started my company and somebody told me, that's from the devil. Because it's pulling you away from doing stuff. Because it was because I couldn't make all the meetings and stuff like that at church and stuff I was doing before. How much I was there.
I know, but it's just
but that's how it's going to be like.
To your point of this has been happening for quite some time. It's like this culture of kind of they wanting to demonize people for things that may happen outside of the church. I think this is also probably part of that idea of just I wonder if he was quote unquote like a Christian comedian, like if he wasn't kept on stage or if he was somebody that wasn't.
But there are Christian comedians who joke about church.
I'm just saying in this instance, if he was not considered secular, would they be as mad? Do you think it's more so? Is it the messenger and less the message?
Yeah, but see, then
because now it's because it feels like it's an outsider.
But if somebody said that to me, then I would have a problem. I'm gonna tell you why I have a problem because I don't know his heart. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what his heart is. I don't know. I know I'm where I am because of God's grace and mercy. The Bible tells us that Jesus left the 99 to get the one. And I tell people I was the one because I wasn't perfect. So I'm not going to sit here and say if somebody said something, if they joked about the church, I don't know his heart. I'm not going to sit and say he's secular or not. No, I mean, because I can't. He may be, a Christian, or he may be saved, and maybe he's trying to find his way. I don't know. So it's not for me to say because there's people in the church who wear suits every day, who say the right thing every day, and they some of the biggest sinners. And
I guess I was about to say, why not call out those behaviors that he's even making fun of? You know what I mean? Those things stand out for a reason.
Well, because if you're there, Chris, and I'm not making an excuse at all.
You over here flying around like Chris Brown.
Well, see, that's too extreme. I ain't never seen that part. That's too extreme.
But we have.
I've never seen that. I mean, I saw one. I seen that. That's kind of funny. I did see that. But this is the thing. If you're a part of something, and you don't always see, and the Bible talks, and I'm not going to do a whole bunch of scripture, but it says about, and the scripture says about
$1,000 people starting out.
Take the log out your eye before you start talking about the story that somebody else is out. So it's not. See, and I'm a firm believer. It's not my place. If somebody comes to me and asks me, I can respond. But I don't think it's my place to go out there and just start calling people out. I don't. I disagree with that. When you just start attacking people, especially people you don't know, because the person could have just earnestly made a mistake. And you say, I heard somebody say they thought about the dress, Pastor Brian. Well, he not saved. You don't know that. So I think so you can't go too far.
Showing some unseen behavior.
But we all.
I'm not gonna say he is.
We all do stuff that. Chris,
But it's a bunch of people
guarantee.
Following that man.
Yeah, but it don't matter, Chris. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. And even the God we may hold to the highest esteem, Jesus is the only perfect person. We all got some sin, something in our lives, man. As my dad would say that if we put our life up on the screen, things would come up in the screen and we would be embarrassed.
I would hope we would have better wisdom than this Pastor Brian.
Yeah, but it's not. But that's just the one thing. And I'm not saying it's right, please, and I'm not talking. But there's people out there who just as bad because they still getting.
How do you quote mystical of the thing?
They still people out there. People out there. I remember being at the table, sitting at the table with a pastor, and they tell him and his wife used to fight before church and after church.
Sound like a Tyler Perry.
They would fight in the car, get out the car, he'd do the service, come back. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we don't see and don't know. So I'm not going to sit there and say this person, because there's, hey, no, wrong is wrong and right is right, and I do agree with that 250%. But also, I'm not going to get on the rooftop and start shouting out like I don't know. I question a lot of stuff Pastor Brian does. I do. Like, I'm not going to look at some man legs. You got nice legs. You put shade butter. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying that. There's some things that just not going to come out my mouth. I'm not going to. I love and respect my wife too much to put her in that dress. To even come home with that dress. And your mom would kill me if I came home with that dress. But I also understand that we all sinners, man. We all fall short. We all make mistakes. And some of us make mistakes that, too. And some of us, we give people a reason to question. The question our faith, but I can't unless somebody's blatantly doing something that's against the word of God. I'm not gonna say so this person must not be saved. Because once you save, you save.
I never go as far as to say that. I think it's more so like you said, it's just certain behaviors that you see, and it's just I'm not questioning the sageness.
But it also depends on what you go to church for. Because there's another pastor. Right. I know I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm naming all these names. William Murphy. William Murphy. He last year, not this year, year before last, he had they played a secular rap song.
I don't know what that is.
With the words, with curse words in New Year's Eve, and people went ballistic. He played in church, and people dancing and everything, man, and having a good old time.
The church is crazy.
No, but I'm just telling you, to him, how he defended himself was he did you see all them young people out there? I wouldn't have did it. Now fast forward. He flats. He grown man. He like in his 50s, I guess, and he out there with these combat boots on, and he,
Is he a heavyset dude?
He kind of low. He crazy. He got his Timbs on. He
like,
he joined the frat. Somebody made I remember the frat.
Yeah, I see some. He crazy.
So no, I'm just saying though. But you know what? People in his congregation, they're okay with that. I'm just telling you. No, me. If I'm sitting there and somebody playing. I don't listen to music anyway. I'm sitting there playing it. Even if they're playing, they beeping it out. It's time for me to go.
How he's dancing to it. That's another thing.
It's time. But even
he's doing the catfishing.
With the ladies.
Well, he was deaf to the song. He played, so he got out there. And so some people think that's okay. That's not me.
Yes, we are talking about Drewski. Yes, we are.
All right, jump in there, man. What you gotta say? Oh, we got the old heads on here tonight. Go ahead, bro.
What we were sharing is that I think people taking it too serious, and ultimately, some people in the church need to lighten up.
Well, but I think it's an opinion thing. Like I didn't think it was. I'll give you the perfect example, and I used to love Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. I did. They cracked me up. There's some people who felt them offensive because they cursed all the time. Now I wouldn't listen to that now, but when I was in college, that was hilarious to me. Yeah. Me and my friends, we thought it was the best thing in the world, man. We be laughing and joking all night long. And there were some people like, oh man, how could you listen to
this? They don't like being the butt of the joke. That's what it is. Don't like being the butt of the joke. Yeah.
Well, but again, this is the other side of the coin. What they say, when you point one finger at somebody, there's three fingers pointing back at you. Some people you strike a nerve because that's what's happening to them. So come on, y'all, get in there. Come on.
No,
I want to hear what y'all got to say about this. Tell me what you think about it. Blessings, my brother. Tell me what y'all. I want to know. What do you think about the video? Do you think that we should be too serious?
It's like.
Yeah, we had some other.
Why is?
I've been following some of his posts since he left Calvary. Some of his posts and
But
ain't Afrocentric friendly, my brother.
I mean, we're not a multicultural church anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. No, but so I just think, it depends on how you see it. To me, I got bigger fish to fry. I really do, and I say this all the time. My goal this year, and I say it again, is to make sure the people that I'm around understand what it is to be a Christian, understand what it is to be Christ-like, and help them understand why they believe what they believe. Because some people don't. And like I asked somebody, if your wife, I asked him, I said, well, if your wife comes to you and says, I no longer believe, how would you respond? What would you say? Because I know somebody who called up and asked me about it because they said somebody they know that happened to. So what would you say to her? Your mom don't want me to start saying what pastor said. Pastor said this. Or pastor said.
So we gotta come. I thought it was hilarious, but I felt guilty for
that. No, okay. Why did you feel? Why did you feel guilty? It was when I first saw it. I had mixed emotions. I had mixed emotions because I'm gonna tell you, I thought it was hilarious. I did. I said, first of all, I'm thinking to myself, like, how much time did he put in thinking about it? Because he hit everything. He nailed everything, and it flowed. And like how much
That's
time
all
was
day
church?
I've been.
And then what I felt bad because the person who sent it to me didn't mean for it to be funny. They were saying, people
back at him.
No, they were talking about because they thought that he was talking about people making fun of the church. I didn't take it that way because again, I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am. I can defend why I believe what I believe. I know who I am. So therefore, if somebody came here, look, y'all make fun of me all the time.
I thought it was more so even just making fun of preachers in the church. It wasn't even the entire.
He was making fun of some stuff that happens in the church
that are outlandish and ridiculous.
Look, y'all
from how they dress to how they be. It's a show.
They got chains on the road.
Yeah, like yo,
he said
it was accurate. It was,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think one of the great things about comedy is the things that are relatable,
but it's also
and like that makes sense that you see in real life. And when it's the best jokes are things that everybody sees.
But you reinforcing what I'm saying. The problem is when you start touching things that happen in real life, you start touching nerves. You start touching nerves. Yeah, but people on the other side of it don't see it as comedy.
And it's always been like
if somebody's been sitting in the church,
been like
that. But that don't make
every joke, every person, even not even about church. Right. From when it comes to race or talking about
but that don't
every joke going to have an opportunity
that does not
to offend somebody.
But that
I make jokes about Wegovy.
No, but that does not mean people can't have feelings. That does not mean that people can't hurt.
I understand that.
People, that's the thing about us. We that's the one thing we can do. We have free will, so we can react differently.
Yes.
And I'm not saying wrong or right. I'm saying, but we can't control that. Mm-hmm. But we should be mindful about it. Now. I wouldn't expect them to break them, to make the circuit round doing that. But to me, and the way he saw it, and obviously he had a bunch of people that felt the same way because all those people in the audience.
You can go that video doing numbers right now.
It was funny. It was funny, man. And again, I really was amazed at how much time did he put into it because everything he did was close. It was like it wasn't some stuff that it's never happened. You saw like when he come Do You Want a Revolution? That was like the perfect song to start with. That was like the perfect song. And I'm gonna say this, and somebody's gonna get a little offended when I say this. Yeah, I thought it was some irony that he had a Kurt Franklin song. Yeah, I did because now people questioning Kurt Franklin and all the stuff he thought. I thought it was no irony he used that song.
I got Christian Dior because I'm a Christian.
They should be reading about this. And see, to me, I wasn't hurt by it. I was not. It's so I don't know. And I'm not one side or the other. I'm just saying I'm always aware that people are not going to feel and think the way I think. I know that.
My whole thing is to the people that are upset. Were they upset when he also, because he's done these skits before, like Chris said, he made fun of Muslims before.
They probably
the Muslims that they don't eat pork, but they doing everything else.
Muslim for Ramadan.
They probably didn't see it.
No, yeah. So it's like select.
No, I'm saying, they probably didn't see that video. This video is because for instance, the person who sent me this video may or may not have seen the one about Muslims. I'm just saying they wouldn't, but you know who you showing this video to. Mm-hmm. Anybody seeing this video understands. Like somebody following him knows what he does. they wouldn't send a video to me about him making fun of Islam. They wouldn't. That's the video they would send to him about the Christ one. They would. Now I agree with you. Come on, you got it. If you're gonna be upset about. But that's what for this people, man. And people, again, I go back to it. To me, if I was having a conversation with somebody and somebody was devastated by that video, you need to be devastated that our schools are underfunded, our kids are not graduating, we built more prisons and high schools. I got a whole plethora of things that you could be pissed off about.
Yeah, ICE is in Philadelphia,
right? Yeah, I'm just, and I think as somebody who just does some stand up and write some jokes still here and there, like I think it's just kind of, I understand that jokes, some of them will offend people, and almost sometimes that's part of what makes it funny.
Like there's jokes, and I'm gonna say this in full transparency. There's jokes that I'll say, like I'll tell your mom, she'll be cracking up. Like I'll see something on Sunday and we be riding in the car or something. Oh, we come home. I'm like, like there's one time we were in church, right? And we sitting there and dude was teaching, and he got teaching, but he had charts and maps, and this is a Sunday morning. I'm like, I was sitting there like, and your mom was looking at me, and everybody looking at each other like, I can't. I felt like I was a freshman in college. You know how you get your first. So I did. So we were joking about it. Now I would never stand up in church and tell that joke. So, I was like, and I think I'm pretty good. I was like, my senses were like overwhelmed.
I do.
And we were laughing and joking about it, not making fun of him, but saying, what, we believe is a time and a place for that. That's a Bible thing. That's not, I ain't going, this is right here. And whether you think I'm a child, people say stuff. So I kind of
reset on a Sunday,
No, but people, I'm just saying, to give you an example how I think people just don't, we see things differently. And it's up to us how personal we take it. I was talking to somebody I've known for a while, and we had your mom and we were talking about going no, I didn't say it because they don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, but somebody said something to me, and I wasn't, the old me would have been insulted by it, but I wasn't insulted by it. But I'm thinking to myself like, because I was laughing, I came and told your mom, like, I think I just got insulted. I just wasn't sure. It wasn't a polite way, so I wasn't quite sure how to take it. And we laughed about it. We thought it was funny. So I think you gotta laugh at yourself some. You do. And I think
you have to be able to laugh at yourself.
And I think church,
nobody wants to be around anybody who can't.
Well, and also you got to one thing I learned.
Take everything too serious. Who wants to be there?
One thing I learned when we were at New Covenant Community Church. One thing I did learn was that, and because we went around all these different churches, Rick Warren in California, Fred Price and Pepperdine. I saw a bunch of them, man. We saw Hutton out Arizona. So I got a chance to. And one thing they all said that I never will forget, and they said, the method stays the same. No, the message stays the same, but the method changes. And what they meant by that was, like, I can't hang. If I play Amazing Grace, ain't no kids coming that building now. But if I put on Kurt Franklin or somebody like that, they're going to show up and see what I got. Then I can walk them through the process of growth. It's like the kids we had in youth ministry. They first started showing up in their Timbs and their white T-shirts. Then they went to the button house, but it took time. And you know what? It took me laughing and joking with them to build a relationship. I couldn't soon you walk in the door, you heathen. You want that's not a relationship building. So I think, but everybody got to kind of find their way. And I do think sometimes we're too serious. I think sometimes, we draw a line, but I also think that's why we have difficulty attracting different generations of people.
Yes.
Because everything has to be, deep and pious. There's no human side to it. And we are human beings. We are human beings, man. And again, to me, it don't bother me because I know I was a sinner. I know I'm not perfect. I say it all the time. I was the one in 99 he wanted to get. So I'm not going to sit there and get off. But I also know, like we do, we like to have fun. Y'all tease me all the time about different stuff I do with different things. I tell this joke all the time. I remember when Nicole said that. When I was talking to Nicole about volunteering Nicole's prom. I don't know if you remember because you cracked the joke. He's like, yeah, it's gonna be crosses and Bibles hanging all off their ceiling and stuff. People, and some people I tell that joke to get offended. You weren't upset? No, I wasn't upset. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious on two fronts. One, at least I know they know what I believe. And we got the congregation that we can laugh and joke about it. But I'm just saying, so people just, right. people see things differently, and I think we just got to give people space to agree to disagree. I do, and fine. You don't think it's funny, but don't get on everybody's house because they do think it's funny. I don't think
I think that too. Like, yeah, if you don't think it's funny, that's fine. But then this whole like, I need to be a voice for her, and like this is ridiculous.
But see, somebody know. But my question was, if somebody said they were offended, then I would have to ask.
Relax.
I need to know what's offensive about it to you, because I think, to me, are you offended when church is the most segregated place in America on Sundays? Are you offended by it? I'm just saying, there's so many things that you could be offended about, because the Bible says, Jesus says, you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Are you offended because we're not doing that?
They offended by this joke, but probably will watch Deion Cole. Yeah.
See, to me, I don't even know most of I know who this guy was. When I got it, I had no idea. Somebody said it, and it was funny because the Christians asked me about it today. When I looked at it, I just never thought about it. I looked at it, I kind of laughed and chuckled, and then it was funny because once you sent it when you asked me about it this morning, I worked with a couple, I was showing them, and I could tell by their reaction. They were a little lukewarm about it. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was funny. But also, I do understand.
I would be interested to hear people who did not.
Has their pastor done this in the past?
People who thought that it wasn't funny. I would be interested to hear.
Well, because if you think,
like, why? Why do you think that wasn't funny?
Well, because there's some people, again, don't understand what it means. To be a Christian does not mean you can't have fun. To be a Christian does not mean you can't laugh. To be a Christian mean you can't laugh at yourself. And I think we think we have to be stoic all the time, and deep all the time, and pious all the time. And that's not true. And I think we need to relax.
We don't have fun.
Now I think we can't be doing crossing over, but I say this all the time, man. There's some people that they just can't wait to get to heaven. And I say this.
That's crazy. People don't. That's a sad life. You doing that at 21, 22.
I'm not going to say it's sad. I'm not going to say it's sad life, because some people truly believe they do what they truly believe. That's every word. And you know what I say? My comeback is to that. Some people don't think it's funny. I'm not in a rush.
You got work to do. You got work to do.
But there's some people who just because the way the world is going, everything, and I'm not knocking them. And they're entitled to that. So my thing is, they're entitled to believe, to think like that, and I'm okay with it. Yeah. Now, if they start trying to make me with them, you got a problem. But it's the same thing. Like I got into a debate, but I got into a little spat with a Christian person, a Christian lady, and because she kept saying all Muslims, and she posted something was going on in Texas at the time where they had Muslims were marrying young girls and and different things like that, and they were allegedly supposed to be raping them, and she put it out there like it was Muslims everywhere, and I was like, nah, I know Muslims, and that's not what they do. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, when we get around each other, we ain't debating between Allah and we have civil conversations. They not trying to recruit me, I'm not trying to recruit them. Once in a while, religion comes up, and we'll have a discussion about it, but we don't walk away enemies or think no. Yeah. But some people do. Some people turn into that.
I would be interested in hearing like actual pastors' opinions of who saw the video. How would they
pastor panel watching comedy? What are your thoughts?
I'm sure there are some.
Honestly, that's a whole other thing. I would be interested to hear like just, I guess, more thoughts on comedy in a sense in the church, and just ultimately.
I don't know if Jeffrey Arp was there, but he's a pastor. I would love to hear
this video. Like, just like, what are some of the thoughts and feelings? Because I'm in the comedy game. You know what I mean? I love it. I enjoy it, and like, there's things that I joke about, whether it's relationships and life, that I feel like are relatable to people, but that some people might find offensive. Like,
yeah,
so like some of the interracial joking, like some people don't like those things.
I mean, and it's kind of funny because I'm not per se in the comedy game, but I've been told when I'm speaking I can be funny sometimes. Things will come to me and I'll say, but that's who I am, because to me, first of all, and I go back, the Bible tells us, that we have a joyful heart, and it says a joyful heart is good medicine. Joyful heart is one that laughs, the one that enjoys life. And to me, because of what I've been through, and the cancer and the diverticulitis and all that stuff like this. Yo, man, hey, I just thank God I'm around. I'm normal. I was joking with somebody the other day. They said, yeah, man, they were telling me all is wrong. And he was like, yo, man, what are you grateful for? I said, I'm grateful I still got all my parts. Because none of my friends do. They got hips replaced in it. And I'm not saying in a bad way. We laugh and joke about it. So I got a lot to be thankful for. And you know what? I'm rejoicing in that. People ask me, I'm living my best life. You know why I live? Because I do. I can laugh at myself. Your mom would say stuff to me. You guys always joke about that. Not a negative way. That's a part of life.
We love to laugh and joke and have a good time.
Yeah, but you also know that's what gets people. You know how many conversations I've been able to get into about the gospel because of that? Because you laugh and you joke. You all right.
That's how people.
Yeah. Because people see you now as being authentic. They see you as being real. Not the person that every time. Because some people think when they find out, I'm a pastor, they automatically think I'm judging. Why you judging me? I can't do this around. No, I got friends who curse. They'll catch it when we talking to God, but I'm not sitting there keeping records. Oh, he cursed 3 times. No, we just that's who they are, and they respect me enough. They respect me enough to try, to not do it all the time. But I'm not sitting there keeping score.
Yeah, I mean, but then I guess you let people know what you're comfortable with and what you're not, and they respect it. But then I just, the idea of like there are pockets of people in religion who take things a little too serious and.
But that's an all religion.
Yeah,
that is.
I think that's another thing too. That's all religion.
Think,
but this one's near and dear to us, so it's like.
Like for instance, I can only imagine how disciples felt when they were talking to Jesus. When they asked him a question, he answered with a parable. I would have been. Yeah, they'd be like, I'm asking you why you telling me that it can't fit through the eye of a camel's head. You this stuff, what do you do? He giving you riddles, and so I don't know. I just think the way things are set up now. If the church wants to grow, the church has to have a little humor. I'm not saying go crazy, but I enjoy it when I go to a message and the pastor crack a joke and say something real funny. I do. I enjoy that.
But you want to know?
I think that's pretty cool.
What probably bothers some people that aren't in the church that look at it again. It's like the idea. There's a little bit of like, what you willing to accept that happens sometimes in and around the church.
Right, but
what you mad at?
People that's not in church. Because people that's not in church. Because people not in church gonna fall fault with everything. Because there's another reason why they don't go to church. They doing it. No matter what you do, they're gonna find. If he got up there and he wore a regular suit.
You want it to be an inviting place where people feel like they can come and be.
Yeah, but some people don't matter what you do. Some people no matter what you do.
True, very
because they just gonna complain.
I guess, but it ain't necessarily about those. Just like the ones that.
Well, there's a lot of those though. A lot of people that complain
are looking to see something different.
I would love to see a survey. How many people actually in church complain versus people who don't go to church? Who thought this is why I don't go to church?
Everybody complains.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, because there's people like that who just I'm gonna pile on. Like when Marvin Winans, he said, lock the doors. And I don't know what happened between that. We said lock the doors. That's why I don't go to this. All you people. Marvin said, yeah, I don't go to this. Is why I don't go to church. All that stuff. Well, why are you complaining then? So there's people. And so you kind of take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure there's especially some older people who may not think it's funny. They don't. They some older folk who've been around for a while and they don't think it's funny. I'm pretty sure some of them. I'm sure some young people, man, who may not think it's funny. But I don't. What you do, people. I remember back and see now I'm showing my age. I remember back when we were in the Covenant community, and I don't know if you remember the transition when we doing a lot of traditional stuff, and I started looking at Fred Hammond and Kirk Franklin, different things to attract young people. Man, there's people who are like, I wasn't saved. And I remember telling them, yeah, folks said the same thing when they put the first drum set in the church. You heathen, you don't put no drums, ain't no place in here for that. Yeah, so the church always goes through this transition, man, where things happen and it changes because of the time, and some people don't want to change. I'm not saying do this right or wrong, but that happens a lot, man. And to me, people complain about it, they're entitled to it, man. I don't, I felt a little guilty. You know, and the reason why I felt guilty was it was hilarious. It had some truth to it, and I felt because somebody sent it to me, I guess thinking I was going to be, you know, this is preposterous. This is, you know, I'm like, man, you know, like, is it really that deep? You know, I mean, you know, part of me thinking like, man, you know, I could have made some money if I'd have thought of that. No, but I did. I mean, think about the creativity he put into that, man. It's crazy. It is. Yeah, just think about, you know, he researched to do that. That wasn't somebody, either he researched or he spent a long time in church. That wasn't somebody who drove past the building and watched a couple of shows and came up with it. I mean, even down to the part where I'm impregnated with the word of God. Yo, you're gonna be impregnated. That was funny to me.
No, I'm a fan of Drewski, so I think like
I don't know who he is. I'll probably never see him again, but I just, you know,
He's funny.
Hilarious too. And I mean, you're probably seeing me because he's been on some random commercials here and there.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really paying that much attention to him per se. I was just, and then that's another thing that made him funny because he ain't a small dude. You know, and he was jamming. So I don't know. I just think so. But see, but this is what I would ask some people. Now I want to get to our next topic. You know, and because to me, I have a sore spot when people who are gospel artists decide they're pastor and they say questionable stuff. You know, they do. I think, you know, everybody's not a preacher. Just because you've got a couple albums out of records and showing, hey, you making money, that doesn't mean you are a pastor. But people assume the role. And they say stuff this question. You know, so I don't know.
You got a microphone. Anybody with a microphone.
That you 200% right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not angry about that, don't get upset about it. It'd be different if the guy say, this is the way Christian acts. You know, then okay. If he said that, okay. You know, if he was saying stuff like this, or this is the way church is. No, he did a little parody. And I go back to Church Lady when they did Church Lady when they started Youth Alive, or You Live in Cup. Every comedy shows back in the 80s, they did that.
Been doing it. Mm-hmm.
And the people who were mocking were people who went to church, who knew about church.
You see these things, it didn't come out of nowhere. Nah.
So
I feel like we ended up kind of going through this the whole time.
Yeah. It's your fault.
No, I mean, it was a good, I feel like, topic of discussion. I'm a fan of comedy. So
we want to stay here. We want to use the last few minutes to talk about the Black Panthers.
Black Panthers coming to Philadelphia.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the video I watched was not representative of Black Panthers.
New Age.
That was not representative. But that's why I text. I think people have a tendency, and it's funny because I think Caucasians help paint this narrative. The Black Panthers, first of all, they were started because I can't think his name who started. Anyway, he started because he actually was a part of it. He came from under Dr. Martin Luther King. He was with Dr. Martin Luther King. Mm-hmm. And the reason why he started because he got tired of nonviolence. You know, he got tired of smack getting hit and everything, and he's a young guy. And he didn't start it to start a war. He said we need to defend ourselves. That's what the whole principle was. It wasn't to go out there and do stuff. It was to defend ourselves. And then on top of that, they ran after school programs. They had breakfast programs. They had programs that we do now that they started that nobody was doing in our community. And nobody was. And then, you know, what made it worse was, and I tell people, if you understand the history of this country, had they declared war on law enforcement, it would have been a whole different narrative. They didn't. That's why they did it the way they did it. Mm-hmm. The FBI got involved and they made stuff up and they went there. It was a plot. But had they declared war, it would have been a lot easier to do it. So I'm saying, when people don't know their history, they go along with what they're told. What they're told, man. And even if you want to talk about it, dude was assassinated. You can call it what you want to call it, man. You know, he was laying in the bed with his girl unarmed.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't that 21 shots or something like that?
Right. So, well, more than that. They riddled the house, and only one shot came from inside the house. And it didn't come from the city. So what I'm saying is, I mean, you know, I think the whole picture, and I go back to Beyonce in the Super Bowl, and people had a fit, you know, because they were dressed up. You know, people wearing, and people need to understand this. People were wearing afros and double jackets before the Black Panthers. They just became a symbol, but they didn't invent the afro. And again, that goes to show you how people think. Because fast forward, what did everybody think when they saw people, and then nobody knows the good side of Black Panthers. They did a lot of good in the community.
People don't talk about history like that.
No. Well, and some because Black folk don't know history, man.
Talk about the glitzy,
The
glamour parts. Oh yeah, the very creative. Talking about the comedy. Best comedy is from reflecting on
Same thing you said.
Life experiences. He spent some time in service, so he been to a church or seen it. Like
he went to a few of them. He because he was like you. And again, now I would love to hear how Kurt Franklin feel about that. I'm with you. I would like to hear how about some pastors of mega church. Yeah, but sometimes you don't see yourself until somebody points it out. Sometimes when you're on the inside,
tight clothes,
you think it's okay. He's a little interesting, man.
But no, I think we might have to get into the Black Panther one a little bit more, like its own show.
Yeah, that could be.
Because I was about to say that's like a whole episode.
We should watch the movie, y'all.
The idea, the history. Watch the movie.
Yeah, Black Messiah. That's a great movie. They went over all that.
So let me ask you a question. So do you think the church has a role in what's happening in politics? Do they have a responsibility to speak up, not speak up?
In a way, I would say yes when these politicians come to the church looking for votes.
Well, I just did. Like now. My thing now is I look at everything that's going on with ICE, and because I know our history. There was a time when Black folk had to carry papers. You couldn't walk around being Black without papers and prove you were free.
That's crazy.
So now they talk about immigrants with your papers. History repeats itself.
Yeah,
and people not paying attention. And then he just released what he said. He thought the civil rights was more cruel to white people than Black people. This dude's an idiot. He's and I shouldn't say that, but he is. And I'm not gonna say his name because he'll be kicking the. But so my point is, do you feel like? See, I feel like just like Martin, I feel the church needs to have a voice. I'm not saying be out there, holding up signs, but they need to start educating their people to understand, man. That this is the world we live in. We're not in a separate world because we're Christians, because we say, because we still have to live in this world. And churches need to do a better job. Two, to your point, they need to galvanize people. Say, yo, y'all voting for these people, man. Do you know who you're voting for and why? They need to start talking about stuff like that, man. It can't just be this, because the real war is out there, whether you like it or not. And it's not going, it's only getting worse.
Yeah, it is only going to get worse. I don't think that in terms of the church having a role, I'm going to say no, because they can't come together on a common goal thing.
No, but it doesn't see, but that doesn't alleviate you the responsibility of having a voice. That does not alleviate you or give you a free pass. And I don't care if they all come together and common goal. If you worked inside your walls, if you just worked inside your walls, I'm not saying, because I agree with you, you're never going to get all the church together because some people always want to be. But if people started working with inside their walls, educate people inside their walls, man, let people know, like there's.
But you want to stay inside your walls and like.
No, because they leave. No, because they're going to leave the building. If you start with the people inside your walls, they're going to go back to their communities. They're going to go back to different things. So, like that's how the gospel spread.
Think about that one church that you got. They got all those old people in there and not getting no young blood in there, and like they going back to the same people that they always were.
Yeah, but even then they have grandkids, they have children. So and you're not going to you never get everybody agree on anything. That's just the fact. That's just not what happens. So you work with the people who do.
And I think what's even funnier to tie everything together, this almost to bring back home like the Drewski thing and like how they getting mad and upset about this. Like they almost separating themselves from their nephews, their nieces, their grandkids. Like this is the stuff that they looking at and they find funny and it relates.
Well, I disagree. I think you got a weak family if this separates you. I do. That's crazy, man. I mean, that's stuff that you find funny. I don't find funny, vice versa. If that's separating your family, your issue is bigger than him. Mm-hmm. If you raise your kids and y'all can't agree to disagree on this, I'm not talking about crazy stuff, but come on, man, because somebody thinks this is funny. If that's messing up your family, you got bigger issues.
Yeah, I guess it's the religious part of it, and not necessarily even just the joke of it.
Yeah, but people misunderstand.
People don't
religion
like,
is about relationships.
All the time.
Jesus was about relationships, man. He wasn't just walking around giving out a bunch of rules. And people feel to realize that this whole thing was built on relationships. It wasn't based on a bunch of rules, a bunch of do's and a bunch of do-nots. And I think we have to get to a place now where we understand that. The gospel gets stagnant. It does. If you keep preaching to the same people just like you, how does it grow?
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of said that earlier.
No, how does it grow?
About opening the doors and trying to get different people in there.
But it's not even about
type of ways.
But it's not even about trying to get people in there, Chris. Sometimes some people where they are. Right? There you go. You meet people where they are, and maybe they don't go to a building, but they start sharing. They start telling other people about it. Maybe you touch that one person, that person. I run into people. It's like the kids. They grown up. The people that was in Soldiers with the Vision, the youth ministry. I still hear from them. Mm-hmm. I still hear from them. Hey, Ricardo did our first theme song. I still hear from them. Don and all them. They still reach out. Hey, what's going on? Hey, how you doing? That's been how many years that's been. Yeah. So I think we got to get back to relationships.
We do. Yes, we do. It's a lot of things that need to come back. I think there are some things. History repeats itself.
I thought y'all would go out with this one.
I'd like to actually open up the show with that because it caught me off guard. And I was like, oh,
it was meant to catch you off guard, man.
That's different. Especially Drama saying that they read everything. Like, I think if you take a look, I read it afterwards.
No,
here's what it says.
A lot of stuff we said in our conference. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yes.
But I think the churches, the only thing I would say the churches has kind of lost his safe place status. And I say that because you can't call somebody a bunch of names and then say, come to my church in the name of Jesus. We got to do a better job of that, man. We lay into people. We lay into people, man. And then say, oh, yeah, Yeah, we got to do a better job. Well, another great show. Love Average Black Man. Yours truly, Chris Bender Sr.
Chris Jr., as always, here to empower, inspire.
And I like the first song.
And I was going to say, if we did that outro, probably didn't have to say our names here because they're in the song.
Devin Bender, like, follow, subscribe, share.
Let's go. You can hear that on the outro. See you guys next week.
We'll drop the sound. We'll drop a soundtrack.
Can we use our voice? Yeah. That'd be crazy. Take our voice and actually let it be my voice during the song. And then put it on iTunes and I can listen to this live.
See you guys next week.
Chris Jr. Devin Bender on the feet.
Now that's all right. And then we gonna sing.